Hello, I'm Sabine,
And I'm Savani.
and this is Behind the Byline, where we introduce you to the talented storytellers behind each issue of Hidden Compass. Today, we're joined by writer Mike Bernhardt. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. So, your piece, The Tides of War, appears in our Quest department. In the story, Mike and his wife Yvonne explore the windswept coast of Ireland's Mullet Peninsula in search of the lost histories of family members caught in the whirlwind of war.
And I'm so excited to talk to you about this, Mike. And one of the central questions in your story is why you're spending decades and crossing oceans to find out the fate of your wife's family members. And that question could be extended even further. Why should people reading Hidden Compass care about those same people?
Well, I think, there's been so many films and books and everything else about World War II and about what happened to Jewish people and about not just Jewish people, what happened to so many people. But there's not, more recently, there have been more sort of individual stories because, you can read all you want about the kind of macro environment of all that. But when you hear about personal stories of people, it's really different. And what's been interesting lately is stories that have come out like I forgot that it's a long title about the Potato Peel Society on Guernsey.
Yes.
Those sorts of stories of things that are not very well known that happened during the war. I think those are just really interesting. And this is one of them because a lot of people don't really know about the British internments during World War II. And even a lot of people in England don't really know a lot about what happened, and especially not here in the US. So this was a chance to tell something that, happened to someone who I knew for 5 years before she died at 103. What happened in her personal life. It wasn't just some person in Wikipedia, So I think that brings a lot of interest. Certainly for me, I think that's one of the reasons I was so fascinated about it with it, because it happened to someone I knew. It wasn't just an abstract story.
Yeah, and those personal narratives are beautiful windows into these larger topics. And there's so much to learn in your story for readers, for our editorial team. And I'm curious as to, what the experience was like for you as the writer. What was one of the most rewarding aspects of working on this story for you, Mike?
I think it was playing detective. There were a lot of things that I had read and I knew to be true, but being able to document it, because you guys want a journalistic story, not just a story. Finding out all of these things. I love digging in and just discovering stuff and finding those kernels of information. And the thing that happened with this was there were a lot of places where, like, I had read an article about that referenced a lot of newspaper articles, and he might have had a couple of words or he just paraphrased something. And when I finally found those articles, which originally I got from the historian Michael Kennedy, who I mentioned, and then he told me about the Irish newspaper archives, which is kind of like newspapers.com, but it's all Irish publications. And they had all of these articles available digitally. And oh my God, I mean, this newspaper, the reporter who was reporting on this stuff was an amazing storyteller himself. And one of the things I'd hoped to do when we went to Ireland was maybe meet somebody who was in their 80s or 90s who kind of remembered something about the bodies washing up and what was that like and what happened. I mean, this guy was there. And 80 years later, I'm able to read these detailed accounts it was the same reporter who wrote all of these articles. They just, I guess, assigned him to follow this stuff. And so for months, he was writing about, detailed accounts of what was going on. He examined some of the bodies himself. He watched the people pulling on the ropes, and, it was really amazing. So that was incredible. I mean, I was just like, I would go out to Yvonne and say, oh my God, this article is like, all of these details. I mean, just even talking about the weather while he's walking, it was at that level, you know.
Yeah, there's so many incredible stories within your incredible story in this piece. And for our folks watching in the audience, go read it if you haven't already. Remember that you can contribute to Mike's patronage campaign. And this is just a reflection of our partnership, not just between our writers like Mike and the publication, but also with you, the audience. So remember to contribute to that. We split the proceeds 50-50 with the writers. Mike, for folks who have already contributed to your campaign, what would you like to say to them?
I think, well, first of all, thank you. You know, I mean, the money's one thing, but really thank you for feeling that the story was important enough that you wanted to contribute, because it was important to me. I'm not sure how important it was for Yvonne, my wife, as I do talk about in the story. She's kind of glad I'm done with it. Um, but yeah, that you felt that it was important to tell means a lot to me. So thank you.
And it means a lot to us. So I'll echo Mike's thanks. And Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you.